In this video, I'm going to talk about a couple of the most intimidating and challenging parts of a van build, and that is plumbing and electrical systems. So whether you're a DIYer building your own van and you want to get tips and tricks on the best practices, methodology, best parts to use, or if you're considering having a professional builder build your van and just want to know the things to look for when you're considering those options, then this video is definitely for you. So I'm going to get into details on our plumbing and electrical systems, the parts we use, why we do it the way we do. So let's get into it. So first of all, let's look at the plumbing system. So you can see here we've got what we call our mechanical boxes. So on either side of the van we have a box, and it's built for the plumbing, and on the other side the electrical systems. Now you can do them on either side. I recommend whichever side most of your plumbing is going to be on, do your plumbing on that side. So in this van that we're building this one for, there's just a sink on the driver's side, and there will also be an outdoor shower on the driver's side. So all our plumbing is going to be on the driver's side. So this one goes on the driver. Obviously then the electrical is going to go on the passenger side. You can switch those, really whatever works for you. We've done both. If your galley is on the passenger side, then you may want to put all of your plumbing on that side and your electrical on the driver's side. Doesn't really matter. So we really like to build these out of extruded aluminum. And the reason for that is the strength, the rigidity, and also the openness. You can see there's really nothing in the back. The back is open. I've taken the front panel off just for this demonstration. So there'll be a front panel with doors that open to access everything. But in the back, the only place we have anything is right here to mount all of our plumbing fixtures. And the reason for that is for weight, reduce weight, and also just airflow. Keep air flowing through everything. Now it's really nice to be able to build your systems on a bench or a table, because it's up at eye level. You're not having to squat down or bend over in a van. And if you do it with wood, it's a lot more difficult to do that because obviously with the extruded aluminum, we leave the entire panels off. We have access to everything. Once we pick up the whole box, and with two people, it's pretty easy to move this whole thing into a van, set it in place, attach it to the van walls and floor, and then put on your covers. And really it's just that simple. Now the other thing about the extruded aluminum, we're able to build this so that it holds this tank in place. You can see there's bars in the front, on the back, and on either end that will keep it from moving. And that just means more strength and more safety in your systems. So what we typically use is a 36-gallon over-the-wheel well tank from Northwest Conversions. Great tank, low center of gravity because it's sitting over your wheel well, and also because of the shape and because it has that part that goes over the wheel well, it reduces the sloshing in the van when you're driving. If you just have one big open rectangular tank, the water's going to slosh all over the place as you drive. So it kind of acts as a little bit of a baffle by having that over the wheel well. So we really, really highly recommend this type of a tank. So we've got some other videos on our plumbing systems, and in those we talk a lot about having our pickup line for the water pump going to the top of the tank. And that way works great, and we still do that. But what we found is with these Northwest Conversion vans, they have a couple of half-inch ports that are open on the bottom of the tanks, and they provide little plugs that you can put in. Well, part of the reason that we were going in through the top of the tank was just so you didn't have any fittings on the bottom, so that weight of the water and gravity isn't pushing and causing a leak. But with these Northwest Conversion tanks, they have really thick walls, really good places to attach your fittings. So even if you go in through the top, you're still going to have to put a plug in these holes, and there's still a potential for that to leak. So what we've done here is we've just used a brass nipple, put it in there, and attached our hose directly to that. So now it's coming out through here rather than going into the top. They both work really well, but we just feel like with these tanks, this is really the best way to do it. So you notice here that we've used these braided hoses quite a bit. Most van builders, whether it's DIY or professionals, are using like a nylon braided tubing, and that works fine. But what I've found is if we ever have leaks, it's with this nylon tubing. So with these, you attach them to a barbed fitting, you put a hose clamp, you tighten the clamp down. And we typically heat these up to kind of soften them and help them mold around that barb fitting and then tighten them down. But even with that, we'll typically, when we first test a system, we'll have 1 or 2 leaks in these and have to tighten them down, reheat them. And then we've also found customers a couple of times over time when they're in extreme temperatures, hot and cold, these can tend to leak and they have to go in there and tighten them back down. It's typically not a big deal to fix them, but we've just found that using this braided tubing with the fittings already on it, has washers, makes a really good seal, and these things, we've never had a leak with these. So you can see we've used that coming out of the tank into the pump. Now this pump is one that we really like because it has a check valve in it, but it also has enough power that it can pull from the bottom of the tank. With a lot of pumps, they'll tell you to put it down low at this level of the bottom of the tank, but with this one, it can handle pumping that water up to the top of the tank. And it also does not require a pressure accumulator. You can still put one in, nothing wrong with it, but these pumps work great without it, so we typically don't put those in. So once we go through the water pump, we come out with another braided hose and into a manifold. And this manifold has 3 ports in it. So if we're doing a van with a sink and an outdoor shower, then we'll use a 3-port. If we have also an indoor shower, then we would use a 4-port manifold. So what it does is it distributes your water out more evenly. So we've got into this manifold, one of the ports goes to the sink, one of them goes to the outdoor shower, and then this one feeds our water heater. We put shut-off valves everywhere so that if you ever had a leak or a problem, you could isolate one of the parts. You could isolate the water and shut it off going to the water heater. You could shut it off going to the outdoor shower, and then you could also shut it off going to the sink. And then at the sink, we also have stop valves so that you can shut off the flow to the sink. So you can isolate the different parts of the system if that's ever needed. Speaking of the water heater, I've got a whole video on this. But we really like this water heater. It's made by Isotemp, and it's made for marine applications, so it's really sturdy, durable, well insulated. It's a 4-gallon water heater, and it uses about 700 watts, and it'll heat your water in about 30 to 40 minutes. And then it will, even after you shut it off, that water will stay hot. We found overnight it stays really hot, and even 24 hours later, it's pretty warm. So it doesn't use a lot of power and it heats the water really efficiently. So we've got the cold water coming into that, and then there's a mixer on this so you can adjust the temperature. So the hot water comes out, goes to a T where we then go to the sink and the outdoor shower. So we have hot water at both the sink and the outdoor shower. If you had an indoor shower, we would just add another line to go to that. So let's just say that you have a part that goes bad, like for example, your water pump or your water heater even, and you need to switch those out and put a new one in. All you've got to do is undo these fittings, take it out, redo the fittings. Same thing on the water heater. So it makes it really easy to work on things and change them out if you ever need to in the future. But we do add doors to the front so that you have easy access to the shutoff valves and if you ever needed to work on any of these components. Now, before we go and look at the electrical system, I just want to mention a couple of things. One is, I started as a DIY van builder, and my heart is really with those DIY van builders and love to support that community. So we've got some resources for DIY builders on our website. You can click the links below to access those. One is a Google Doc that lists all of the components and parts that we use in our van builds. We've spent hundreds of hours and years researching and testing parts to find the ones that are absolutely the best for a van build. So we have links to all of those on that Google Doc. The reason we do a Google Doc is because we can update it on the fly. We used to have everything on our website, and that was a lot more difficult for us to keep up to date. And also, like, sometimes Amazon would change links, or one supplier would stop selling something and somebody else would, and the links wouldn't work. And so with the doc, it's a living document that we can update all the time. So that's a free resource. You just click the link and you can download or make a copy of that. The next thing is we have a template for the van build sequence. And this is the document that we use when we're building vans, because it really is critical on certain parts of your build to do them in the right order. Otherwise, it can cause you problems towards the end of your build that you find, oh, this is in the way, or I shouldn't have done that, I should have waited on this. And so that document is also available, and you can click the link in the description to access that. Now, the final thing is we are now offering these systems, both the plumbing and the electrical, as drop-in systems. We'll build the entire thing, put the covers on it, everything. We'll put on a pallet, crate it, and ship it to you. And then all you got to do is pick this thing up, 2 people, drop it into your van, bolt it into the walls and the floor, and you're good to go. So with the plumbing, it's all self-contained. All you're going to have to do is just connect your sink. All you've got to do is connect those hoses to these stop valves, fill your system up with water, plug in your water heater, and you're ready to go. So on the back panel of the plumbing box, we've got a door you can open. You can see the tank, so that as you're filling it, you can watch it fill and make sure you don't overfill it. And then we've got the aqua fittings for the fill and the shower, and then there'll be a shower mixer. We're just waiting on that. We should have it in a couple of days. So I wasn't able to get it in time for this video, but we use a marine grade shower mixer right here. So let's go take a look at our drop-in electrical system now. Now you can see here we're using all Victron components, which we love. We got lots of videos on that on the channel if you want to see why we do that. Basically, I just want to go through the kind of the setup and the layout of this system. So in this van, we've got 2 300 amp hour batteries by Epic. We also offer this system with 2 280 amp hour SOK batteries. And so that gives you a total of 560 amp hours. So you can either go with 560 or 600, same price either way. And then those 2 batteries are wired in series to create a 24 volt system. Now you can go with a 12 volt system. We'll do that for you if that's what you want. So I've done a video comparing 24 volt versus 12 volt. So I'm not going to go into all the details, but basically there's a few benefits of using 24 volt. You can use much smaller wires because with 24 volt, you're increasing the voltage, which decreases the amperage. So what that means is on a 12 volt system, if you're doing a 3000 watt inverter, you're going to have to use 4/0 wires. This is a 4/0 wire. You can see it is pretty big lugs, hard to work with. You got a bigger equipment to be able to make the crimps and everything, more expensive for the crimpers for these. Whereas with the 24 volt, you can use 1/0 wires. So these are 1/0 wires for the battery cables. You can see there's quite a difference in size in those, difference in size in the lugs and everything, and a lot more flexible and just easier to route the wires and work with those. So that's probably my #1 favorite thing about working with 24 volt. Also, if you're doing an air conditioner and you're doing a 24 volt air conditioner, then the wires are smaller that you've got to run from the air conditioner down to the system. So I'll just kind of go through an overview of the system. We've got 2 Orion chargers so that we can get a total of 60 amps of charging out of our vehicle alternator. Because when you got a big battery bank, like 600 amp hours or more, one of these chargers is just not going to give you enough. 30 amps for 600 amp hours. If your batteries were at 0, would mean you would have to drive for 20 hours to fully charge those batteries. But if you got 2 of them, it's 10 hours, but most of the time you're not going to be fully depleted. You may be 50% or something. So in 5 hours, or what we find is in 3 to 5 hours of driving, typically we can totally recharge our batteries if we've, if we're down like 50, 60, 70%. So that's the way we do that. So 2 of those is really nice. So right here is your solar charge controller, and that'll be sized based on the size of your solar panel array. We got the wires coming from the roof down into a breaker and then feeding this. And then this is a 24 to 12 volt converter. So most of the things that you're going to be running in your van on DC, things like your lights and your water pump and things like that, are probably going to be 12 volts. So you're going to need to convert that 24 volt down to 12 volt for those type of things. If you have 24 volt devices, you can run them directly. But if you've got 12, you just need to convert it down. So that's what that does. And then we've got our links distributor, which basically just is a really clean way to organize everything. There's fuses in here for each of the different systems. We've got one for the inverter charger. We've got one for the DC to DC charging for the alternator. We've got another fuse for our solar smart charge controller. And then we've got another fuse in here for our DC fuse panel. So everything's really nicely organized. We've got the shutoff switch, we got the smart shunt, and then we've got the multi-plus 3000 watt inverter, and this is a 24 volt inverter. So it's just a really nice system. Everything's mounted, everything's organized. So if you're doing this as a drop-in system, all you've got to do is run your solar wires down and connect those, connect your alternator wires to these studs, ground the system to the vehicle, and connect up the batteries with the cables that we'll supply. So you can see here on the back, we've got a DC fuse panel and we've got an AC breaker panel. We've also put a GFCI outlet back here just for convenience. It normally would be black, but we didn't have any black ones, so I threw this white one in here just temporarily for the video, but this would be black, so it all match. And then we've got a switch here, so if you want to wire some lights in the garage area, you can wire them right there to that switch. Now this also has a covered panel with doors that open, so you've got access to everything. And then you can just connect all of your circuits, your DC and AC circuits to these panels, and you're good to go. You'll be able to have your whole electrical system up and running in a weekend. So if you want to build your electrical and plumbing systems yourself, then we have some good resources for you between our vanbuild sequence template and also that Google Doc with our DIY van build materials list. But if you want to do a drop-in system, then we'll build it to your specs, crate it up, ship it to you, and you'll be able to have your plumbing and your electrical installed in a weekend. Now we've got tons of other videos on the channel about DIY building, about van life, product reviews, and more. Please consider subscribing and be sure to smash that like button. Jeff with Thrive Vans, thrive on. See ya.